Good morning, friends and enemies. In today's video, we are going through every single game for the upcoming NFL Week 3 slate, and we are ranking and tiering all the fantasy relevant wide receivers for you guys. We do this every single week, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. Yesterday, we did the running back version of this video, so if you want to go check that out, we'll put that in the show notes as well. Let's get to business. Let's start from the top. We've got Thursday Night Football, Miami at Buffalo on tonight. Buffalo 12.5-point favorites, a 49.5-point total in this game. Now, a little bit of a complicated equation we got going on here with the amount of moving parts at the wide receiver position, because you got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle both coming off of good games, but we've got a Buffalo team that just has the number of Tua in Miami and Mike McDaniel here. So even after last week's game, I have very little faith in starting any of the Dolphins outside of Devon Achane here. If we look at the practice reports, we have Matt Milano and Ed Oliver will both be out for this game. So a little bit of an upgrade for the Miami offense, especially on the running side of things. And then you've got Storm Duck, the fake number one cornerback for Miami, who is out as well. So Miami's defense, we know, is absolutely porous in the passing defense side of things. The question here becomes for Buffalo, is this game close enough that Josh Allen has to attempt more than 25 pass attempts, right? Like, do they give the ball to James Cook 18 times? Do they give Ray Davis 5 to 7 carries? Do they give Ty Johnson a little work? Does Josh Allen run the ball 7? Like, this could be a game script that gets out of hand quickly enough that they don't need to throw the ball a lot. So when I'm looking at the two sides, we'll get more pass attempts from Miami most likely. Tyreek Hill is going to go into the dub flex category for me. Jalen Waddle, I don't care what you guys want to say. Buffalo has his number. The last 3 games that he's played against Buffalo, his receiving stat lines have been 4 for 41, 2 for -2 yards, and 4 for 46. There was this clip that came out during the summer, and I talked about this during some of my summer videos, and it was kind of glossed over. Tyreek Hill was at, I believe it was the Fanatics Fest in New York City, and they asked him about playing the Buffalo Bills, and he was like, yo, they're a bunch of bitches. All they do is sit back and play cover 4 against us, so we can't throw it deep. It's like, yeah, that's how every team figures out how to stop Miami. You just sit back in the zone and let them pepper over the middle of the field type of shots to Devon Achane, to whoever the tight end is, to Tyreek Hill. So I think Buffalo just has figured out playing them over and over and over again with Tua and Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. Just sit back. Let them do what they do over the middle of the field. They're not going to beat us that way, and take away the deep shots. That's their only chance of staying in this game, and I think they do that really effectively. So if I think they're taking that away, like, sure, anyone can break a big play every now and then, and maybe I look stupid and Jalen Waddle catches a deep pass. But when I look at the offense and who they actually utilize in those screen plays, in those motion plays, in the middle part of the field outside of Achane right now, it's Tyreek Hill number 1 in the pecking order over Jalen Waddle. So I have less confidence in Jalen Waddle being a high impact player tonight. And anytime I spend this amount of time on a game that's happening tonight, the opposite's going to happen. But I'm just telling you, this is the way I'm looking at these players. Tyreek Hill, I still think is the top guy in the pecking order. So he's going to be a flex guy for me this week. Jalen Waddle, I'm genuinely looking at him as more of a shaky flex guy. When I look at the other side of the ball, I do want the Bills pass catchers in my lineups because the matchup is so juicy. Keon Coleman, disappointing week 2, but a really good week 1. And I do think they're going to try to take advantage of the exterior matchups. So both him and Shakir are going to go into the dub flex category. I know Shakir's coming off of a disappointing game, but I think more often than not, you're going to get the 6 for 60. So if you're in a half PPR league, Shakir definitely drops into the shaky flex category. But full PPR, I think he has a really nice floor, really good matchup. I actually would start Keon Coleman over Khalil Shakir. I do think there's some upside with Keon Coleman. I do think they're going to try to target him downfield, all that kind of stuff. But Josh Palmer's another guy. He's running routes, but he's a rather not for me. Moving to Atlanta and Carolina. I mean, this is one that I feel like is pretty easy not to overthink. If you have Drake London, he's been a little bit disappointing so far. Big targets in week 1, dropped down in week 2, but Atlanta, Carolina, this was Drake London's big game last year, week 18, where he popped off for 180. I think, there's no way you're sitting him. Ted McMillan, we did just have the injury report come out yesterday, and unfortunately, AJ Terrell was a DNP because he pulled his hamstring, and he is now week to week. So they're not going to have their top cornerback. We're not going to have AJ Terrell for probably 2 to 3 weeks at this point, meaning we're going to get a cake matchup for Mr. Teteroa McMillan, who goes right into the feels good category. I mean, his receiving yardage line is up at 64.5 right now. It's probably not, it's exactly what Drake London's is. So if you want to go by that, they're closer to the same tier. I think Tet would probably be at the top of the feels good. Drake London probably closer to the bottom of the must start. but I will be moving up Tet McMillan in my rankings pretty substantially based on the AJ Terrell news here. I'm typically updating my rankings, daily, if not like in real time as injury news kind of floats out there. I didn't get around to Tet, but if you want all of my updated rankings at all times throughout the season, you can become a Big Dog member on BDGE.co. That gets you access to the weekly rankings, my sit start rankings, our waiver wire rankings, which has fab suggestion, and it gets you access to a private Q&A where you could ask me any of your sit start questions on Sunday mornings at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. So that's a monthly membership, but we have a sweet promo going on right now with our main partner, MGM, where if you go onto their app or their site and you deposit $10 using either code BDGE or Big Dog, BIGDOG, play any slip on there. As soon as you do, they're going to hit you with a promo code in app to get our Big Dog membership for free for the next 3 months. So very, very inexpensive way to 1, hit a slip, 2, support the brand, and 3, most importantly, help you dominate your fantasy league going forward. All right. So Tet moving up in the rankings. You'll be able to see that if you're a Big Dog member. Darnell Mooney at this point, he's definitely a hold for me, and I think better days are ahead, but he's clearly still kind of like coming back from the shoulder injury right now. He's running most of the routes and probably will be up to a full-time player sooner rather than later. I don't think there's any way you could throw him into the dub flex category until we see a good game from him. But he's shaky flex. I think you could do worse than throwing Darnell in there. Playable, but shaky for me. And I think Hunter Renfro's right in that spot with him. He's running a ton of routes. They've obviously lost faith in Xavier Legette over there. He is just horrendous on a football field right now. Renfro coming off of a 2-touchdown game. He seems to be a guy that's over the middle of the field, gaining some trust with Bryce Young. That being said, if Jalen Coker's sitting on the wire and you're in a deeper league and you could throw him on your IR right now, absolutely a sharp pickup to be had. Moving on to Cincinnati and Minnesota. This is another tricky game where we got both starting quarterbacks out for this one. On the Minnesota side of things, it looks like we're going to be without Ryan Kelly unless he clears concussion protocol before this. But big news is Christian Darrisaw is back to a full practice, and it does look like he will be suiting up, which is huge for the Minnesota offensive line. When I'm looking at the top guys, I mean, Jefferson in a matchup with the Bengals, there's just no way you're obviously taking him out of your lineup, even with Carson Wentz back there. We've seen KLC have really good statistical outputs with backup-worthy quarterbacks. Wentz, I'm definitely shaky about, but you couldn't have a better matchup than at home in your first week with KLC as the play caller. Minnesota, 3-point favorites. So I'm not going to overthink Jefferson. When it comes to Chase, I mean, he has to be in your lineup as well. I hate the matchup, obviously. They're at Minnesota. As you can see, Minnesota right now, extremely tough matchup for opposing wide receivers. They've allowed the 4th fewest fantasy points per game to the wide receiver position, the single toughest matchup in terms of EPA per pass allowed. But it's Jamar Chase. We have Jake Browning at quarterback. He put together some big statistical days when he was a starter in 2023. He got half the season. And I will say he's had 2 years to really nail down the offense. He's had 2 years to learn behind Joe Burrow. So he could definitely be an improved quarterback. Obviously the ceiling has kind of come unraveled in that offense. We're not going to get 37-point games out of Jamar Chase like we might have been able to get. But the bigger hit here to me, obviously, is going to be a guy like T. Higgins, who is going to find himself at the bottom of the dub flex category. And to be honest with you, I know him and Jake Browning showed decent chemistry out there, but I have very little confidence that he's going to be able to regain 52.5. That feels very high with Jake Browning out here, given the fact that his weekly prop was not much higher when Joe Burrow was under center. We did see him and Browning connect on that deep pass last week. So, maybe Browning does have ultimate trust in T. Higgins and that does convert, but I do think the target volume has been inconsistent for T. Higgins. And that's kind of always been a thing, whether or not it was Burrow or not. Last year he ran very pure with touchdowns. And I think we have this elevated stance of what T. Higgins probably is, but their defense is bad enough. I think they're going to have to pass the ball a lot. So I don't think he's completely off the radar. He's in the dub flex category. Adam Thielen, just based on the matchup, yeah, I'll throw him into the shaky flex. Green Bay at Cleveland. So Green Bay is 8.5-point favorites. The total for this game is only 41.5. We do have some good news for the Green Bay side of things. We have both Zach Tom and Aaron Banks, 2 of their starting linemen, back at practice in limited fashion, trending towards both of them being back on the offensive line, which is obviously great news. We have Jaden Reed out for this foreseeable future, which opens up the target floors of these Green Bay Packers receivers. That being said, Cleveland's defense is good. Their passing defense is not as good as their run defense, but it does seem like it might be a game where they just try to control game script, low total of 41.5. Not exactly sure what kind of passing volume we can expect for Jordan Love over here. With both pass catchers, I don't know that I feel like they're dub flexes. If I had a lineup where I had them in my starting lineup, I wouldn't feel great about it. So I do pull them closer to the shaky flex category. I do think they both have really solid floors. When I say both, I'm referring to Matthew Golden and Romeo Doubs. I think if you're looking for a ceiling game, You know, like let's say your opponent starts off with like Buffalo players and they got Josh Allen and James Cook or something, and those two combine for 65 points or something tonight, then I'd probably be looking for a guy like Matthew Golden, because we all saw last week he was fingertips away from having a massive game. And I think with Jaden Reed out, we're going to see way more routes run by Matthew Golden, and they're going to have deep shots available for them to do so. Cleveland is also a very, very man-heavy base defense when it comes to covering the pass. They play a lot of single high, so don't be surprised if they continue to take a lot of shots downfield. That's like a very, very nice match made in heaven for Jordan Love plus his style. So Golden and Dobbs are going to be in the shaky flex category, but they're definitely going to be at the top of the list here. So you could do worse, but don't be surprised if one of them has a big game where they're catching shots downfield, because that's the type of defense that Cleveland plays. And you saw that on display against Baltimore. So if you have good outside wide receivers, which Golden is already clearly showing himself to be one of the better separators on the perimeter, like they're going to take some deep shots down the field. So if you want to, take one of the slips on MGM on our partner's website and go with Matthew Golden's longest reception, I wouldn't hate that. And if we're looking at their lines, Dobbs 39.5, 3.5 receptions, anytime TD of plus 195. Golden's doesn't have actual lines yet, but plus 230. And then Dontavian Wicks, he's another one that could definitely catch a deep ball, can definitely get some shots thrown his way if they run a play action. They got single high coverage on top, and Dontavian Wicks is a pretty good separator. You're obviously not throwing him into your lineup unless you're really desperate, but he's a rather not. He gets on the list. On the flip side for the Browns, I mean, this is obviously, it's looking like the woke matchup for your fantasy players if you're going against the Green Bay Packers. Both of them are going to get into the shaky flex category. You know, Joe Flacco should probably throw the ball again like 40 times. I don't know what kind of efficiency that's going to provide for like Judy. I think you can definitely throw him into your lineup as a shaky flex. Tillman, I think he's up there as well, but you don't feel good about going against the Green Bay Packers. Houston, Jacksonville, Nico's going right into the must-start category. Travis Hunter's for sure in the shaky flex. I mean, he's just, based off last game, I think there's a chance that they use him more at cornerback going forward, and you see a little bit of a dip in his receiving snaps. But that being said, like, it doesn't really matter because they're not using him downfield. They're only using him around the line of scrimmage on like short slants or screens, and it's really not amounting to much right now. So I think for right now, he's a guy that like you do not really want in your lineup until he proves that he's going to be a bigger part of it. Brian Thomas Jr., I think you just kind of keep going back to the well. This might be a squeaky wheel situation, especially if Travis Hunter is not playing as much on offense. Tough matchup, obviously, but they do a good job of moving these receivers around that I don't think we're going to see like a Derek Stingley full-on shadow defense on Brian Thomas Jr. His line is still up at 64.5. So I think you just got to hold steady, hold faith on BTJ. De'Ami Brown's performed pretty well. We're going to throw him into the rather not category. It does look like, based on practice reports, that we are going to get Christian Kirk back. He was limited on Wednesday, so he is trending in the right direction. That being said, I mean, the matchup's great, but I don't know how we can really trust. It's hard to trust one pass catcher in this Houston offense, although they are getting, a great matchup in terms of the Jaguars. I will say, when you look at the rankings here, 7th most fantasy points allowed to the receiver position, 29th in EPA per pass. I do wonder if a lot of that is baked in with, obviously, Jake Browning throwing 3 interceptions is going to hurt those stats pretty dramatically for opposing teams. I do wonder, though, if they are using Travis Hunter at cornerback and he becomes like a really, really good player, if that does kind of transform their passing defense. So I do want to leave a little bit of wiggle room for the Jaguars' pass defense to not be an absolute Swiss cheese matchup for opposing offenses. So with Christian Kirk, I do think he immediately kind of puts himself right back into the wide receiver 2 role. I think out the gate, I'd rather not, but he's, probably at the top of the category here, even though none of those guys are really worth talking about. No one else you can get onto the field right now in that Houston offense. Indy at Tennessee. Let's check the practice reports. Josh Downs with the DNP. We also had Tyler Warren with the toe injury DNP, L'Jarius Sneed DNP, JC Latham DNP, Kevin Zeitler DNP. So you got 2 offensive linemen that the Titans badly need that were DNPs on Wednesday. That does not mean that they're not playing this week. We do need to get at least a limited practice either Thursday or Friday for them to suit up. We also, all eyes on Josh Downs and Tyler Warren. It's only Wednesday, so we don't want to panic on those pass catchers. We will proceed as if they were both playing. Obviously, if Warren and Downs are both out, Michael Pittman gets a massive boost here. For the Titans, Cam Ward is awesome. I just wonder if Brian Callahan can actually produce a functioning passing offense. I don't know if he's capable of really making anything happen from a high statistical output. So I want to leave the light on for these pass catchers. The Colts have been a good defense, 26 in terms of EPA per pass allowed to opponents. Calvin Ridley's line is at 52.5. Alec Aymaner's down at 36.5. I think Maynard, I love the chemistry that they've shown, and he could definitely catch a touchdown pass, and he's running all the routes right now, but he's going to be in the shaky flex category for me. I do think it's a little bit, I don't want to give up on Calvin Ridley. We're 2 weeks into the season. Let's not like go fucking crazy right now. And ultimately, I do think I would start him over the majority of guys in the shaky flex category. So we're going to give him another shot in the dub flex category at the bottom of the tier here, because I would start him over Jalen Waddle. I would start him over the Packers receivers, most likely, unless I need more upside. Then I might throw one of those guys in there. But for right now, he's going to be at the bottom of the dub flex category for me. I think in my rankings right now, yeah, looking at them, I have him as the wide receiver 32. So you're looking at a mid to bottom wide receiver 3, which I think is, around what the dub flex category is. On the other side of things, I mean, Josh Downs, he's only running about 60% of the routes. I don't know how you can have much more confidence than throwing him into the shaky flex category. Alec Pierce is a rather not for me. Michael Pittman's performed very well. I just think there's going to be a lot of games where they have that, 4 for 40, 4 for 50 type of stat line. He's going to go into the dub flex category for me because I do think he's shown good chemistry with Daniel Jones, but he's definitely going to be at the bottom of that category for me. Moving on to Rams and Philadelphia. This is one where honestly, I'm kind of surprised that the total in this game is up at 44.5. I think these are two really, really stout defenses, as you could see by the red bubbles here. The Eagles are bottom 10 in fantasy points allowed, bottom 10 in EPA per rush. The Rams are absolutely, fire against the pass as well. Puka's going to be a must start, obviously. AJ Brown at this point with the passing volume, he's going to get into my dub flex category because he's AJ Brown, and maybe they give the squeaky wheel narrative a push and he's going to move himself up here. Like I'd start him over T. Higgins. I'd start him over all these guys on the bottom here. But I do think as we get to the top of the tier, like you are debating between these types of guys. So AJ Brown, he's not in the must start category, obviously, based on the way we've seen this offense run. Like we knew they were going to be run heavy and they've exactly stuck to that. I do think one of the problems in the passing game has been the loss of Kellen Moore, where you're seeing the Saints now benefit from the number of plays that they are running here. They're up at 68 offensive plays per game. A lot of that has to do with them trailing, but that's going to be the narrative all season. Whereas them not having Kellen Moore and them not having an up-paced, fast tempo, run a lot of plays offense is hurting the overall volume. So it's like they're still running in terms of the rate, the same amount of runs. Like they're around the 50%, run rate, pass rate split as they were last year. They're just not running a lot of plays. So A.J. Brown's going to be in the dub flex category. I'm actually going to put Devontae Smith down here in the shaky flex category because the same problems, and obviously A.J. Brown's the alpha in this offense. So he'll be up there, but I don't feel good about getting Devontae Smith in my lineup right now. Devontae Adams is the other one where he's going to knock down a tier for me. I know he's coming off of a really big game and he's a great receiver, but what I think we're likely going to see here is what we saw in week 1 when the Eagles played the Cowboys, where Quinyon Mitchell just shut down George Pickens and shadowed him for the entire game, and they allowed CeeDee Lamb to kind of eat over the middle of the field. And I'd imagine we're going to get a similar defense where Puka is probably going to rack up a bunch of those, 9 to 12-yard catches, and Quinyon Mitchell stays on Devontae Adams for the majority of the game. So he's going to get into the dub flex category for me, obviously at the top of the tier because he's ridiculously talented. But I do think there's a world where, if you're in a 2 wide receiver league and, you only have 1 flex spot and like, let's say you have Jordan Mason on the roster, like I'd rather flex Jordan Mason this week with Aaron Jones out than throw a guy like Devontae Adams in this tough matchup where he's likely going to get Quinyon Mitchell on him the entire game. Moving to Vegas at Washington. Washington is 3-point favorites. Now, obviously the storyline here is what happens with Jaden Daniels. He's dealing with a minor knee sprain. He's day to day. I genuinely think it's 50-50 whether or not he plays. I know they keep saying they're going to be cautious with him, but these are NFL players that try to push themselves. And right now, we don't have a real inclination. He didn't practice on Wednesday. I don't think that matters. I'd be pretty surprised if he practiced on Thursday. I think if we get 3 DNPs, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, probably unlikely that he suits up on Sunday, but I still think you leave the door open for it. If he doesn't play, I don't know how you can feel confident with Marcus Mariota at quarterback. It's going to be a very low passing volume offense. Like looking back last year, he had a game that just barely scraped over 200 yards. He started a handful of games over the last couple of years. They're always very low volume, very low passing output, obviously, with the type of player Marcus Mariota is. And in Cliff Kingsbury's offense, they're going to go very heavy line of scrimmage, screenplay, utilize the running backs to a very, very high degree. Back in Atlanta, when he was a starter for the majority of the season, he had like 2 games over 200 passing yards, and they came against the Saints and the Panthers, one of them in over. Like the point is, Marcus Mariota is not coming out here and throwing up 275 and having Terry McLaurin go for a $110 and Debo go for 7 for 90 and a touchdown. So with Mariota, like I do think you could flex both of them. I do feel like okay about both of them, but they're shaky to me. They're going to go into the shaky flex category. I do think Deebo Samuel's type of play probably fits the style a little bit more. And I still think it's a pretty good matchup. I still think like I feel good about the receivers enough to throw them at the top of this tier. But at the end of the day, shaky flexes if Marcus Mariota is playing. If Jaden Daniels is playing, then they're moving into the dub flex category. And I feel relatively good about both of them. On the flip side, Jacoby, I mean, I don't know how you can't feel good about him right now. He's just such a high floor player. Put him into the feels good category and move on with their days. Next up, we got the Jets at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, 7.5-point favorites. In this one, the big news is that Justin Fields is going to be out with a concussion for this week. Honestly, it doesn't really move me in terms of Garrett Wilson. Like, I do think it probably wipes off the ceiling outcome that we saw in week 1. Right? I don't think Garrett Wilson's going to go 8 for 125 and a touchdown, but I do think Tyrod's a good enough backup that he can still feed Garrett Wilson targets and he can still get there from a PPR standpoint. So I'm not going to knock him down too much. I feel relatively good about Garrett Wilson in my lineup, to be honest with you, and I think I'd rank him above most of these guys, even with Tyrod there at QB. So he's going to go into the feels good category. I mean, his line's at 62.5. That's his 64.5 for Jacoby, 64.5. Like, he's right in line with these guys. Devontae, let's see what he's at. 59.5, so a little bit lower there. Yeah, I mean, that's probably the tier break here. And then on the flip side of things, like the Jets defense has not been good. I put Mike Evans and Igbuka both into the feels good category. Igbuka's been getting it done via touchdowns and just, running a shitload of routes, obviously. Evans got the 11 targets last game, and the big games will come. He does probably have a tougher matchup, probably seeing a ton of Sauce Gardner in this one, but like, Baker's target tree is very, very condensed right now, and I'm going with Mike Evans and Igbuka in the feels good category. Pittsburgh at New England, the next matchup here. Let's check the practice reports here for Pittsburgh, and I gotta say, man, Deshaun Elliott, DNP again. Joey Porter, DNP again. Alex Highsmith, he's already out for this one. Derek Harmon's out. The Steelers' defense has looked like fucking trash, and it looks like they're going to be without, again, 2 of their top secondary players. And because they're bad, it's leading to a lot more passing opportunities and volume for, I guess, guys like Jaylen Warren out of the backfield and DK Metcalf. So when I'm looking at the opposing matchup, Christian Gonzalez did get back to a limited practice on Wednesday, so it does look like he's going to suit up. That being said, he has missed everything since late July. So you're talking about like a month and a half not being on the football field, working your way back in. So I don't think it really spooks me for DK Metcalf, to be honest with you. Obviously a much tougher matchup than, Carlton Davis or whoever else was going to be the cornerback that was against DK Metcalf here. But I don't think we can put Christian Gonzalez back immediately to like shut down cornerback status after missing a month and a half of football. So I'm kind of unchanged with Gonzalez being back in the lineup as it respects to DK Metcalf. So Metcalf, for me, he's going to be in the dub flex category and probably closer to the top of it. I do like him quite a bit. His yardage is all the way up at 58.5. That's a very, very strong number here. Rodgers clearly likes him, especially down by the red zone. So I think you can do worse there. On the flip side, I mean, I don't really know how you can start anyone in this receiver group outside of maybe Sprinkle and Kayshon Boutte. I do think I would actually throw him into the shaky flex category. I know he had a down game last week. He did get into the end zone, but we're talking about week 1 where he had over 100 yards. I think he is the favorite target for Drake May here. And with Deshaun Elliott and Joey Porter Jr. looking like or trending towards not playing again, this is going to be a much easier matchup for Kayshon Boutte on the outside here. And as you could see, they're top 12 in fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver. They're bottom 5 in EPA per pass, and they're allowing the 4th most points per game here. So while his line is down, I'm absolutely going to be ripping this 2.5 line here. And speaking of that 2.5 line, if you want to see every pick that I make, regardless of what type of pick it is, player props or just straight spreads, whatever, you can do so by following me on the Pickett app. Sorry, I'm about to blind a lot of you guys. I apologize. I just wanted to show their logo in the top left corner here. It is free to download. It is free to follow me. If you use the link down below, it'll take you right to like the download app page. Use code BDGE when you get on there. You'll follow Gut, I believe, first, but my username is right here. It's just Nick Ercolano right here. All right. And when you do that, you'll be able to look at my calendar. You'll be able to look at all the plays that I have for tonight's game or Sunday's game. Like, these are some of my favorite picks. Took San Fran -1.5. That line's already moved up to -2.5, which is shmoney. This is just a social like bet tracking app. All right. So if you want to see everything I take, a lot of your favorite creators are on this as well, but you can share this app with your friends so you can all get on it. You could have like fucking monthly contests if you want. See who does the best, who does the worst. You could also just copy plays that I make. So when you're on the app, they have a very, very clean like mobile version of the app. You'll see any of the things that I take and you can just hit copy and it'll automatically take those for you. So go download the Pickett app. It is one of the first links down below. Again, free, no credit card required. Use code BDGE when you get on there. Let's get back to ranking shit. Yeah, I mean, at this point, Stephon Diggs is going to be a rather not for me. Demario Douglas is a rather not. I think you can throw them onto the screen, but if you have them in your lineup, you are in trouble. Move to Denver at the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, this is just a tough one to like really figure out right now. Looking at the injury report, Evan Ingram was a DNP. Dre Greenlaw looks like he's not going to play again. Deion Henley's been a fucking beast. DNP, illness, I'm not really worried about that. Ladd McConkey, DNP, so keep an eye on that. I think Ladd will probably be fine. Evan Ingram, I'm not sure with the back injury going on, but these are just two tough teams to play against, to throw against in particular. Game total is 45.5. The Chargers are 2.5-point favorites in this one. I just don't know how you can do anything with these Chargers receivers other than just throw all three into the dub flex category, right? Like Keenan and Ladd feel like very high floor plays. Quentin Johnson is getting a lot of the deep targets and has been great this year, but you're going against Denver and it's hard to be like, oh, this guy has a ceiling output on the way here. So if we look at their lines, let's see. We got Ladd at 57.5. We got Quentin at 40.5. And we've got Keenan at 50. So they do have the pecking order of Ladd, Keenan, Quentin Johnson, which I think I would agree with on a week-to-week basis. Quentin Johnson is more of an outside guy, so he will probably see more passer tan than these other guys. But Herbert's love to fucking sling it and yuck it down the field to him. So I would order it in this exact order, I think, in my rankings. And I'd throw them, kind of at the top of the tier. But it is a tough matchup. I can't say that I like feel great about having any one of them over the other one in my lineup because it's very hard to predict on a week-to-week basis what's going to happen. And the fact that they're playing against Denver, obviously, is what moves them down from like feels good to the dub flex category. On the flip side, Courtland Sutton, I know everybody's like panicked about. The dude had like 16 straight awesome games, and then he has one bad. What do you people want? Do you have to have 45 straight games in order for you to have confidence in a player? Courtland Sutton, if he's in my lineup, I feel fucking good about him again. He's getting into the feels good category for me. Troy Franklin, we did see him have a nice breakout game. That being said, the Chargers secondary is good. He's going to go in a shaky flex. I think he's going to have to earn more consistency in fantasy production for me to move him up into the dub flex category from now. He's above most of these guys in here, or at least half of these guys in here, because I do think he'll start to see more screen targets along the way, but he's still very much a shaky flex for me until we are proven otherwise. New Orleans at Seattle. Practice reports, I think, do matter in this one. We do have some secondary players in Seattle with DNPs. Devon Witherspoon might miss another game here. Julian Love with the hamstring. The talented rookie safety for Seattle was a DNP as well. Zach Charbonnet, a DNP. So we'll have to keep an eye on what happens here with the injury report for Seattle's defense. JSN, of course, is a must start at this point. Cooper Kupp's going to be a shaky flex for me still, even though he had like a good game last week. I'm not too interested in having him in the lineup. Rashid Shaheed, I don't know how you can really put these guys anywhere else but shaky flex. He had a nice game last week, but the Seattle secondary, they're playing in Seattle. I don't know how much I trust outside receivers against this Seattle secondary. That being said, Olave's target share has been so damn high. Vegas has him up at 60.5, so I'm going to throw him into the dub flex category. I feel okay about him because he's going to get like legit volume, but some of these big plays just need to start dropping. Some of the end zone targets need to start converting. I just don't know how much I want to continue to bank on this fourth quarter, throw the ball 20 times in that quarter type of game plan, because eventually they're going to have a game where they're just like surprisingly in it and it's a 3-point game or they're tied or something like that, and the pass volume is not going to be that high. But I do trust the pace of Kellen Moore's offense to get us above, 30 pass attempts per game. So Arizona at San Fran. We did have Purdy return to a limited practice on Wednesday. I'm skeptical that he plays this week, but it is good to see him out there. For the DNPs, we did have Will Johnson as a DNP with the groin injury. We'll have to see if that holds up. We have Juwan Jennings with a DNP ankle injury. We'll have to watch that as well. But he was DNP across the board all of last week, then suited up and played really well. So if Juwan Jennings is playing regardless of quarterback, I'm looking at him as a dub flex, and I feel pretty good about him in my flex right now. Ricky Pearsall, I do think I would make the same argument there for him. They don't have lines up for Ricky P for whatever reason right now, but they do have them up for Juwan Jennings, and he's north of 50, which is a pretty good mark. So Ricky's going to be at the bottom of the tier. Like if I had both of these guys, I would be starting Juwan over Ricky P right now, but I do think you can flex both of them, especially if Will Johnson is out. Then I feel that's a nice upgrade to Ricky P, who's going to be playing primarily on the boundary outside. And again, if those injuries do occur, keep an eye on practice reports throughout the week, and they will be updated in our rankings, bdge.co, cheapest way to get it basically for the remainder of the season free. Hit up MGM, drop a slip, code BDGE, $10, you'll get it. And on the other side of the ball, I mean, you just have the Marvin Harrison experience, right? You draft him in the 3rd or 4th round, like you just have to throw him into the flex category. But the San Francisco 49ers defense has really gotten really good. They've really gotten really good with Robert Saleh immediately here. So it's not a matchup I like, and I don't feel like great about Marvin Harrison Jr., but I don't see how you can just not have him in your lineup each week pretty much. Dallas and Chicago, this is going to be a beautiful game if you have fantasy pieces in this one. I mean, we are looking at the practice report of the Bears here, and not only is Jalen Johnson now out for the year, he's not doubtful, he is outful. He is going to be out for the entire season, who is their top cornerback. He is like a legit superstar out there, so he's out. They got Jalen Jones with the DMP. They got Kyler Gordon, who missed last week, with the DMP. You've got TJ Edwards with the DMP. And on the flip side, you got both cornerbacks for the Cowboys, Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs, DNPs. Diggs is going to play. It's just an illness. Deron Bland did not play last week, so he is probably a far shot to actually play in this one. So you've got two teams who are bad on defense, who throw the ball a lot, who have most of their defensive secondary players out for this game, which is why Vegas has this total up at 50.5. 1.5 point favorites for the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, CeeDee's in the must start. I got to be honest, with both of these secondary wide receivers, George Pickens, I feel fucking phenomenal about him in this matchup. So he's going in there. Rome's been as good as any fucking fantasy wide receiver. I think he's top 5 at the moment. He's like top of this tier for me. The other tough one is DJ Moore. DJ Moore has not produced well. He's clearly taken a backseat to Rome Odunze. Him and Caleb just don't really have a great chemistry right now. And I do think Ben Johnson came out this week and made some weird kind of like comments about not liking what some of the guys on the field were doing when they weren't involved in the play. Now, he didn't drop DJ Moore's name, and I have no idea if he's actually talking about him, but this does feel like a consistent narrative with Ben Johnson and DJ Moore right now. So I do wonder if we see an uptick in snaps or targets for guys like Alameda Zaccheaus or even Luther Burden out there, who it doesn't seem like Ben Johnson fucking trusts anyway, so probably not. But I don't know. I'm skeptical about DJ Moore because he's just not very involved in the offense. He's not getting like a ton of valuable targets right now. So I do think while the matchup is phenomenal, I think I throw him into the shaky flex tier. He's probably higher on the list because the matchup is good. But when I'm deciding between Waddle, DJ Moore, Debo, the Goldens, Dobbs, like those are the guys that I am deciding between, right? And I think that's probably around the tier that I feel comfortable ranking DJ Moore in. Right now in my rankings, he's the wide receiver 43, one spot ahead of Golden, one spot below Jerry Jeudy. So that adds up. Moving to the Sunday night football game, we've got KC at New York. KC is 6-point favorites in this one. No notable DMPs at practice for this one. Malik, of course, is a must start. Wan'Dale Robinson, I still think I get it. He had a good game last week, but come on now. We're not getting 37 points out of the Giants every week. And I think you look at Wan'Dale the same exact way you looked at him after week 1, where he had his 5 for 50 performance, and you say, hey, if I'm in a full PPR league, I feel okay about him in the flex. So he's a shaky flex for me because we know more often than not what we're getting. If you need a floor play, Wan'Dale's your guy. If you need a ceiling play, he's definitely not your guy. On the flip side, a little bit tougher. Tyquan's that deep threat. They're probably going to take some shots to him, so he's going to be in the rather not category, but I do think you could actually do worse. When it comes to the receivers, I mean, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. We expect Marquise Brown to be the high volume guy for as long as Xavier Worthy's out. However, Xavier Worthy has now put together a string of limited practices, and I would lean on the side that Xavier Worthy probably plays in this one over not playing. So Worthy, I think if you have him, I know the re-injury risk is very high and he might be a little bit limited, but to be honest with you, man, if he's out there, I'm probably starting him in my lineup. And then that means Marquise Brown moves into the shaky flex category. I doubt they have lines up, until they know confirmation on Worthy. Yeah, they don't have it, but Worthy's anytime touchdown is at plus 125. Marquise is at plus 190. Moving on to the Monday night game. Should be a fucking wow. The over-under has moved all the way up to 53.5. Holy shite. All right, well, here's the deal with this game. We don't have practice reports yet, but I am dying to see what the cornerback duo of Marlon Humphrey and Jair Alexander are doing. There's a possibility that both of them are hurt for this game. Jair Alexander did not play last week. Marlon Humphrey got banged up. I don't have clear, really, indication of whether or not he's okay. But I think the obvious ones, Amon-Ra is a must start. I think at this point, I feel great about Zay Flowers. I think you just kind of have to throw him into the must start category with how good he's been. 65.5, 5.5 receptions. Amon-Ra is a little bit of a tier above there, but that's just the quality of the player. And the other guys you're looking at, it's Jameson Williams, who I'm hesitant to put into the feels good category because he only caught 2 balls last week, went over 100 yards because that's what Jameson Williams obviously does here. But on that type of volume, when you put up 52 points, obviously I think you're just the boomer bust flex type. I'd play him over a lot of players because it's a 53.5 point total and they're probably going to have to sling the ball a ton here. And I do think both defenses are pretty good against the run. So like J-Mo's probably at the top of the tier for me, but there might be some sit-start decisions to be made here. On the flip side of the ball, this is a little bit tricky. D-Hop has played so well, but at the end of the day, he's really running only like 25% of the routes. He's like a specialist guy where I wouldn't be surprised if he gets into the end zone, but I think you're a little bit crazy for starting him. So I'm going to throw him into the shaky flex category at the very bottom of the tier. I'm going to do the same with Rashad Bateman. And that's actually going to wrap it up for us because that was the last game. Let's go into poster mode for you little hoes. So yeah, this is how I am breaking out the tiers for week 3. If you want to see, again, the exact order that I rank them in, you're going to have to go get the Big Dog membership at bdge.co. Normal price is only $10 a month, so it's just a way that hopefully you can support the brand and support your fantasy football league. But the best way to support the brand as well as get it for the cheapest price would be to go through our partner offers page, MGM, code BDGE or Big Dog. Just deposit $10, play a slip, and you'll get an in-app message from them that gives you a code to use on our website. All right, hope this was helpful. Good luck tonight. I'm sure Jalen Waddle's going for fucking 8 and 170. Shout out to me for doing that. I'm sorry if you're playing against him. Smoochies.